Hello and welcome. This is part 2 of modeling an acoustic guitar in Fusion360. This section is going to deal with modeling the neck body and the headstock. That's not including the heel transition down here. Much of this design is based on what I learned from Austin Shainer's videos on designing electric guitars. I've applied them here to an acoustic guitar and added a couple of things. A variable angle on the neck and a variable angle on the heel transition. So that's it. Let's get into it. Okay, so the neck design and the headstock design are all kind of pivot off of the fretboard design. So first thing we need to do, I'm going to back the timeline up here. Let's get back to... Let's get here, please. It's gonna make me beg or what? Okay. So the first thing we're gonna do is first thing we're gonna do is bring in our parameter file. So we're gonna derive our parameter file by insert derive, and then selecting the parameter file. Once the parameter file is in here, we're going to go into the parameters, and we go down to the user parameters, and we mark the ones that we're going to use as favorites, and that'll move them up into our favorites section where we can use them. So then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in the fretboard component, because we need to sketch off of that fretboard component. We are going to let's turn that off and turn on. Oh, here's my fretboard. Couldn't find it. Turn on our sketches, and we're going to turn on just the fretboard sketch. What we're going to do is we're going to go create a sketch that's going to, and we're going to project these points. Does anybody else's mouse do that? I don't know if it's the mouse doing it, but it suddenly just does that. So we're going to go and project in these points off of the fretboard sketch here. This is the sound hole. I'm sorry, this is the saddle. This is the line that defines the sound hole. The 15th fret, the 14th fret, the 10th fret, and the nut end. I can make that clearer maybe if let me turn off that sketch and delete all of my sketch so you can see what I'm talking about. It was probably clear enough, but just to make sure. And then turn back on this is just the fretboard, so I'm going to project in these points that I mentioned. Once I have those in, then I can turn off. I no longer need the fretboard. I can turn that component off. No, first I should bring back my lines and then turn it off. So now I have this sketch. This is my main sketch. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a plane at 90 degrees at the 10th fret. The 10th fret is where the transition from the neck body to the heel occurs. So I'm going to create a 90 degree plane there that I can draw my neck contour on. Okay, so Cancel that. And then I'm going to create a sketch. We'll go ahead and flip that over. So now this is the bottom side of the neck, and I'm going to draw my neck contour, which is simply an arc from the one side of the fretboard to the other at a height of neck height at the 10th fret. Neck height 10th. My constraints, I'm going to constrain it as a tangency on both sides, and I'm going to constrain the center of the arc to this vertical line that I've drawn. So hopefully you can see what I've done there. Now I added in these two additional arcs that'll come into play later. But they're going to be tangent off of this arc and extend down for roughly a half an inch. How far they extend isn't critical. Okay, let's get out of here. Get out of there. Okay, so now I have that heel transition there. The next sketch I'm going to do is down at the nut end. I'm going to sketch in my nut placement. So this line here is the end of the fretboard. I'm going to add nut thickness by extending these lines and connecting them with this line. And this is where the nut sits on the fretboard and behind the fretboard. My next sketch, then I'm going to do one more sketch, which is going to be the transition line. This is going to define where the end of the transition is from the headstock into the body. Then I'm going to do another 90-degree plane. Cancel that. Just turn it on. I'm going to at the transition end right here. And on that plane, I'm going to draw my my neck profile at the transition. Okay, so then that is this sketch, which is basically the same sketch as the neck contour at the 10th fret, only it's smaller. It goes only to the height of neck height nut. And again, it goes from the side, one side to the other, with tangencies. Once we have that, we now have this. And this is our main body section right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a couple of lofts, one from each side here, through here. And those are going to look like this. And those lofts, we're going to take profile 1 and profile 2 and create a loft on this side. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. Profile 1, profile 2, and we're going to loft through there. And we have our surface version of our main body. Okay. Next, we are going to create a couple more planes on angle. We're going to have the fretboard nut end, which is at 90 degrees. We're going to have our headstock angle. So this is going to define the angle that our headstock will be at. And that's defined by that parameter we spoke about earlier. oops, cancel that. This one here, which is going to be headstock angle, which is at minus 11 degrees right now. And we're going to have our headstock face, which is 90 degrees to the body. This angle. All right, so this defines our headstock right here. We'll sit right in here and transition through this little section right here. So our next sketch is our contour at the nut. It's a continuation of the main body. Let's see. Let's turn off these construction planes. Okay. Again, we have the same circle. We've made this a construction line, and it'll be there to help us define our transition shape later. Again, with the extensions that are a tangent to that main arc. Okay. Then our next sketch is going to be the headstock, the main shape of the headstock. I'm going to pull in a video that I took while I was modeling this to show the process I went through to get this designed. It was pretty challenging. Got there in the end, but you'll be able to see what I went through and how I got there. So here you go. First thing we're going to do is project this with the nut area that we had defined earlier. We're going to project these three lines onto, this is on the angled plane for the headstock, and then we're going to draw these lines out, and then we're going to square them up. And these will be turned into construction lines here shortly, to give us a kind of a working layout. I'm going to kind of cut in and out here so that you don't have to watch my painful experience of getting this all figured out, but I'll leave in just enough for you to get the idea of how I got here. So this is what I ended up with for my, framework upon which I'll now build my headstock. I'm going to let this go for a minute, then I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead to a little further down the line. I'm jumping ahead on this part because the basic shape of my headstock isn't that important because nobody else is going to define theirs exactly the way I define mine. What shape you create in here is totally, your style. So just kind of jumping ahead here until I get the basic shape in. So that's the basic shape of the headstock, and now I'm gonna model the or sketch out the volute, which was a rather difficult process. I really struggled with it. I'm gonna kind of fast forward this a bit and let you go through and watch how much I had to struggle to get this defined. But the idea is to create an arch on the two sides and then an arch on the top, and get it constrained to the line there that defines the back of the nut. In the end, it gets done, but it was a tough process to go through. So I'll fast forward through the rest of that design, and in the end, you'll be able to see what I ended up with. It'll show all the constraints and all that. So this is the final headstock design. The only real important part is the volute here. Getting that defined the way you want it, and getting it defined in a way that you can adjust the radiuses on that to change how sharp it is, or what it is. And so this final design here, you can see all of the constraints and all of the dimensions that I have in here and where they're at, and then if you want to change the shape of the volute, you just change these radiuses and you can make it however you want. I highly recommend you watch Austin Shainer's video on designing the perfect headstock and headstock transition. It would build on this, and he's probably far more eloquent than I am. But I hope this has helped, and now we'll get on to designing the side profile of the headstock. So this is the side profile. I'll open that up. You can see the sketch and see the all the constraints and everything here, but I think I'm gonna pause this and we'll go to another cutout of the video that I took while I was actually designing this. So the first thing we're going to do is project in the center line of the flat portion of our headstock. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a line from this point straight up for the length of the thickness that we want our headstock to be. And remember, there's a veneer going on top of this, so it's the thickness minus the veneer, in this case a 1/2 inch. You need to make sure that it is perpendicular to that center line that we projected. And then we're going to draw a line from there toward the transition, and then a line down to that center line again. And we need to make sure that that is perpendicular to that center line as well. We're going to need to make sure that that is coincident with this point, that second point right there. Then we want to make that vertical line, there we go. We made sure it was coincident there, and we're going to make that a construction line, that vertical line right here. Make it construction. Make sure that it's perpendicular on both of those corners. Then we're going to draw an arc like this right here. And make sure that arc is tangent to the line that we drew it off of. Next, we want to get this point on the top of that center line right there, and project that. I'm having a little hard time grabbing it. There it is. Okay, make that, project that. And then we want to project the center line of our body, the main body over of the neck. So right there we want to project that line. Now we're going to draw an arc from our previous arc to that point that we projected along that line. And we want to make sure we add a tangency to that arc. And then we're going to create a perpendicular construction line from the top of the volute, and we're going to dimension that to about 0.875. That vertical line, we want it from the top of the volute to the join of those two arcs. So make sure that that is perpendicular. And then dimension it to, and I chose 0.875, but it's your taste again here, how tall you make your transition there. Is we want to create a line from the top, the center of the top of the volute to the center of the bottom of the body. Actually, I guess that's the top of the body. As you see, I have difficulty. We need to project in that point right there, that at the bottom of that vertical line that gives us the center of that body. And then we want to make that coincident with that point, that line that we just drew. You see, I have to delete that perpendicularity, and there we have that. And then the last thing we need to do is we need to connect the end of that arc with that line we just drew down below, and that will complete our sketch, and we're ready to begin modeling. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude. I'm going to select these three lines, and I'm going to extrude those up to the point. I'm going to select the point at the end of this shape here and extrude that up to that. Then we're going to select the, we're going to turn on our sketches there, and we're going to extrude the top line of that side profile in two directions, to object. We're going to select a point that is the widest point of our headstock. In my case, it's up there at the top. You could just as easily over drag them and not do it to object, but this works. Now I'll use the split face tool to get rid of the extra material. I'm going to select these two surfaces, these two faces, turn off body so I can see my sketch, and select this outline. Turn back on my bodies, and then we're going to delete the parts we don't want. And there we have the main part of our headstock. And now we need to fill in the volute and the transition. And this is where those arcs we added to the contour sketches come into play. We're going to loft from the nut contour to the body contour, both sides, and then we're going to loft from the body to the upper edge of the volute. And what that's going to do is give me surfaces that I'll use on my loft to create a perfect transition from the body to the volute. As you can see there, you want to turn off sketches because you want to loft from the body to the body, not from the sketch to the sketch. So I'm going to select, I'm going to turn off sketches, and then I'm going to select these three surfaces. And I'm going to change those all to curvature. That'll force a G2. I'm going to, if I remember to. Then I select the rest of my lines, turn on my sketches so I can grab this line down here. And that's it. And then, so that forced a G2 contour here, where so I get a perfect transition from the body into the transition and up to the volute. And now that gives me that surface, and I'll use that to do the same on the other side. Change them all to curvature. And then select the rest of the lines. Grab that line, and there we have it. And we're going to delete the surfaces that we don't need. And now we just need to patch up all the open surfaces. Start at the heel side of the body and patch up these two open spots on the end. And then we'll flip it over and patch up the top side of the headstock. I think we have it all closed up. So next thing we want to do is stitch all the patches together to make a solid body. Just select everything, select the stitch tool. It says we have one free edge here, but it's this yellow line here, it's internal, it's not going to bother us, so we'll just accept it, and there we have our functionally finished neck stock, headstock, and neck. We'll do a couple of cosmetic things here. We'll give it some wood grain appearance. And just take a look at all the transitions. Now that it has that wood shiny surface, you can kind of see that, you know, it's all very smooth. And then we might want to add some fillets here on this backside. I just put a 1.125 fillet. I was hoping to get a little more fillet on the volute, but all I could get was 1.25, but it turned out pretty nice, I think. Put that one in there now. Don't want it too rounded. Spin that around. I think that's pretty good. So I think that looks pretty good. I think we'll take a quick look now at the variable angle on that headstock and make sure that's working the way I expected. So, coming up. The first thing we have to do is go open up our parameters file so that we can make adjustments to that neck angle. Remember, we put this headstock sketch on a angled plane, so now we can change that angle to adjust the headstock. So we'll go in here, we'll find our parameter for headstock angle, and let's change that to -5 degrees to create less of an angle. And then we need to save that. Save the parameter file and go back over to our neck and update. And watch the headstock. Boom. Okay, so that worked. Let's go try another value. Let's try going steeper this time. Let's go to -14 degrees. Save it. Back to our neck and update it, and there you go, 14 degrees. It didn't break. There are limits to how much you can change that without breaking the model. If you try to adjust it too much, I think if you go to a positive value, I think it'll probably break. I'm not sure of that. Just go back and set it back to -11 degrees. Update it, and there we are, back where we started. So it's all working. Next up will be the heel transition on the other side. That's it for part 2. Thanks for watching. Part 3 will be on defining the heel transition. Another challenge. So see you then.